Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Dr. Karen Beck Pooley. I am the director of the Environmental Policy Master's program here at Lehigh University, and I'm just going to walk you through an overview of our program, give you an idea of where you can find additional information, and be sure you have my contact information if you've got any other questions for me about any component part of our program. I am at Lehigh University here as a professor of practice in political science. And in addition to directing the Environmental Policy Master's program, I also direct the Community Fellows program, which I'll mention a little bit as we get through the presentation. As you can see, our students come from a wide range of academic backgrounds and follow a wide range of academic pursuits while they're here at Lehigh. Eli is there in the upper left corner. He was an environmental scientist as an undergrad, came to Lehigh and continued doing a lot of work around environmental conservation. His master's thesis was all around the resiliency of cities and how cities and their residents prepare for and recover from environmental disasters, particularly hurricanes. He was looking a lot at Hurricane Sandy. Miles there in the middle came from supply chain management and the business school here at Lehigh and continued his work in thinking about more creative and sustainable ways for harnessing natural resources and turning those into valuable economic assets for their community. In particular, he was looking at shea butter and various products that could come from shea and how the production of those products could be community and economic development activities at the same time. Again, getting an environmental policy and natural resources, totally different direction. And similarly, we've got students there in the bottom left. They were participating in a neighborhood planning process focused on a street right off of our campus. But again, thinking about ways to encourage walkability, improve neighborhood quality of life, which has important environmental health benefits, as well as environmental benefits as more people walk instead of drive. We're incredibly proud of our students, and I'll describe a little bit about who they are when they come to us and what they do while they're with us. But you can see the two students in the middle of that top right-hand picture. We're receiving awards at the end of the year for both their work in the classroom and out of the classroom. Both of those students did a substantial amount of community-based outreach and volunteer work while they were here at Lehigh. One of them has gone on to work for both a regional transportation agency and then on to environmental advocacy, the other for an environmental law firm. And so we'll talk a lot more about what our graduates are doing when they leave here. And there we are just at the bottom, celebrating finally getting to graduation in the midst of a pandemic. We feel pretty strongly, and hopefully you do too, that right now is a pretty important time to be studying the environment and environmental policy. We need as many tools as possible to address what we're facing in terms of climate change and the implications of it for our natural environment as well as our cities. And so you can see that we've got faculty from a wide range of departments all participating in our program and available to students, helping them figure out what those policies and tools have been over time and what new ones we might create going forward. We are truly an interdisciplinary master's program. You can see that our faculty coming from earth and environmental science, engineering, philosophy, sociology, political science. We also have growing relationships with Lehigh University's brand new College of Health, which is bringing a totally new vantage point into the study of environmental issues and environmental policy. So our students are truly tackling these environmental issues from an interdisciplinary perspective. Courses across a range of disciplines, research guided by faculty from a range of different disciplines, and that equips them to do a whole bunch of different community-based projects and internships. And when we talk a little bit more about the application process and who's applying, I really do want to stress again here, and I'll say it again later, that this is an interdisciplinary program. And so just as the faculty who teach in our program are coming from a range of academic backgrounds, so do our students. So there is no one type of undergraduate preparation that would get you ready for our environmental policy program. We have students with all types, from the sciences to the humanities to the social sciences to engineering and business, have come into our program and used what they learned in that undergraduate experience to shape how they see addressing environmental issues after they leave Lehigh's graduate program. So just a little bit about who we are and what our students get to do and why we think it's so important right now that they're doing the work that they're doing in our program. To talk through our program itself, sort of the mechanics of it and what you're doing while you're here. I do want to stress that more and more students are finishing our program in one calendar year. And what that would mean is sort of 2 traditional semesters, fall and the spring, in addition to a summer session. More and more we're finding our students are doing that. The simplest way to think about our program is as a 10-course curriculum. So 10 courses start to finish. And I'll walk you through what those are. You can see 1 through 10 going down the right-hand side of the slide, slightly different colors, just to indicate you what makes up those 10 classes. We'll start at the top, 1 through 3. We have 3 core courses that all students participate in. And that is designed to reflect the fact that they're coming in with a whole bunch of different academic backgrounds, and there's a certain set of interdisciplinary knowledge and tools that we want everybody to have. So that core is going to be sort of overview courses in the environmental sciences, review for students coming from environmental science backgrounds, but newer for students coming from other disciplines. Similarly, there's a core course on politics, law, the philosophy behind these environmental interventions. Again, review for some based on your academic experience before coming to Lehigh's program and new to others. So we've got science overview core course, politics and law core course, and then more of a sociology and humanities oriented core course, thinking about how humans interact with their environment. And so by the end of the core, no matter what you studied as an undergrad, we know that you have a wide range of interdisciplinary knowledge about how you might think about the environment. So that's 1 through 3. 4, course number 4 there is a research requirement. This one gets a little bit more flexible because the research requirement can be fulfilled with any technical course that's going to speak to the kinds of research and work you most want to do. So for example, we have a course on opinion polling, could be your research methods course. There's statistical analysis. We've got courses on mapping and GIS, which could be your technical research methods course. And there are others out there too that we can work together to figure out how it would fit this research requirement. So there's some flexibility there, but the idea is that you're getting concentrated effort on a technical skill around researching environmental issues, even if that might look different from one student to the next. So that's 4 of your classes. And then you've got at least 4 more that you can take as elective courses. That's in the chart there, numbers 5 through 8, at least 4 of those. And those can be focused on whatever your specific area of interest is. We've got some existing concentrations mapped out for students in topics like environmental justice, environmental health, planning and policy, but by no means are you restricted to those areas of concentration. In fact, we have a couple students now experimenting with a focus more in the sciences and environmental conservation. In addition to Eli, who I described from the prior screen. So even if we haven't sort of formally crafted an area of focus, that's not to say it's not completely open and available for you to use your electives to zoom in on that topic. So those are your elective courses. And then the final 1 or 2 courses, the graphic there shows 2 classes, but if you wanted to add an extra elective and only use 1 of these remaining classes would be for either a thesis project or an internship project. Again, an intensive either research or community-based effort to really wrap up and tie together all the other schoolwork you've been doing. And like I said, that could take up the equivalent of 1 or 2 of your classes. I've got community fellowship up there. I said I would mention it. I'll mention a little bit now, I'll mention a little bit later too. That is effectively a very intensive internship experience. That's going to be more, instead of a 1 semester experience, that's going to be a full year experience. That's going to be 15 to 20 hours a week with a community-based organization or one of our local governments. And really in the office, even a more intensive kind of on-the-job experience. And that does come with some funding to support your studies at Lehigh. And so as far as we're concerned in the program, if we have some time set aside in your time here at Lehigh for either a thesis or an internship, that community fellowship obviously is going to fulfill that requirement and then some. And so that's how it lines up. 10 courses. Students have increasingly been able to finish that up in 1 calendar year. And it's a mix of intensive independent either research or hands-on activity, elective courses, and our interdisciplinary core along with a research requirement. All right, so how do you apply? There's more information on our website. You can apply right through the website. There's a big button as you land right on our homepage, and I'll include that link at the end of this presentation too. There's that big green button that the arrow is pointing to is right there on our home screen, so it's very easy to find. Our application, in addition to things like transcripts and those kinds of things, also asks you for a personal statement. You're going to need an additional statement if you're interested in exploring a community fellowship and doing a community fellowship while you're doing your environmental policy master's degree. And then you'll need 2 letters of recommendation. It's not bolded in that bullet point, but one thing I want to highlight, we went GRE optional over the course of the pandemic and have decided to keep that as our policy. So GREs are not required to apply to our program. We left it as optional if you feel like it would make your application stronger, if you're worried about other component parts of your application and want to have those to help support you as you apply for our program, that is fine, but there are absolutely no negatives to not submitting GRE scores. We do not expect to see them. We will receive them if you'd like to send them in, but we are GRE optional now, and you have no consequences for not submitting test scores. So that's brand new. So I want to be sure to highlight that. Also, I want to explain, we accept applications on a rolling basis, and we have students start our program throughout the year, at the beginning of the summer, beginning of the fall, and beginning of the spring semesters, to try and sort of maximize our flexibility for students, depending on what your schedule and time of graduation, in addition to time of completing this program, you want to arrange for yourself. There are some dates on there, and those dates are repeated on our website, but just to flag some of these, rolling admissions, but there is cutoffs to when you need to be accepted by if you're hoping to start at a particular time of year. So for example, we need applications in and processed by the middle of July if you're hoping to start your environmental policy program in the fall. So July 15th is the deadline for starting applications or starting your schooling in the fall. I want to point out though, March 1st is when we will start allocating the merit-based financial support that we as a program have to give. And so if you're interested in being considered for some of our funded positions, and I'll describe those more in a minute, whether it's a teaching assistant position, a graduate assistant position, or for some of our merit-based scholarships, that's going to be something that you're going to want to direct your timeline a little bit to make sure your application's in a little bit earlier. If you apply in the middle of June, there's absolutely time for us to process your application, get you started by fall, but it's likely that at that point we've already selected, for example, our teaching assistant for the next academic year. So just a little bit about our timeline, and I'm happy to answer any questions about any of that, certainly. Just to repeat again, I've harped on it a couple of times already, but there is no specific major that we're expecting to see. We have had students accepted into and incredibly successful in the program coming from a wide range of academic backgrounds. And so there is no one particular transcript we're expecting to see. There are no sort of allocations of undergraduate credits across particular departments that we require. Absolutely anything and everything is game. As I've said, we've had students from a range of academic backgrounds all be incredibly successful in our program and be incredible assets to it and their classmates. So just a brief overview of the application process. Here's just a little more about that financial support. We do know that this represents a big expense in terms of both time and dollars. And so we do have some merit-based support that we as a program have the choice to allocate. None of this is need-based. Need-based support, loans and grants of that kind are all allocated through the financial aid office. Those aren't decisions that our program makes, but I'd certainly be happy to connect you with those resources too, if that's something that you're curious about exploring. But these are our merit-based financial scholarships and supports that we have available to students coming through our program. The first is the Dean Scholarship. And we have a number of these available. These are effectively worth about 50% of your tuition payment for the program. So effectively you and Lehigh split the cost of your tuition as you're working your way through environmental policy. That's the Dean Scholarship. That comes with expectations that you're gonna, work hard and do well in our program, but there's no other sort of work requirement or obligation on your part in exchange for that scholarship. The teaching assistantship, graduate assistantship, and community fellowship all come with the expectation that you're giving something back to the program or to the university. The teaching assistantship, our program gets one of those each year. And so this position is fully funded, so tuition is completely paid. And it also comes with a stipend for living expenses. And in exchange for that, the teaching assistant is supporting one class in the fall and another class in the spring. And I mentioned we have students starting at any time of year. You might start your program in the spring, summer, or fall. Teaching assistantships, those positions start each fall. And so the teaching assistant RTA would support one class each of those semesters in addition to the work that they're doing in their classes. Graduate assistantships, GA positions, exist all over campus. We as a program don't have a GA working for us specifically, but we'll help link you up with other departments across campus that do have these kinds of positions available. One of which, and it's highlighted on the slide, the Lehigh Office of Sustainability typically hosts 1 or 2 GAs each year. And so we try and work very closely with that office to see that one of our environmental policy students can fill those positions. One or more of our environmental policy students can fill those positions. But those also, exist across campus, and we will support you in whatever way we can to sort of track those positions down and apply for those. And then, like I mentioned, the community fellowship. And you can see Lauren on the slide. She was one of our community fellows who also went through the program. This is a more intensive internship. It's going to be for the full year. So your placement with a community-based organization or one of our local governments is going to start in August, and it's going to run into June or July as you work out with your placement. It's going to be consistent, 15 to 20 hours each week. But with that community fellowship, your contribution to your tuition is just 9 credits, or roughly 1/3 of the cost of coming to Lehigh. Lehigh is going to kick in about 1/3. Your placement is going to kick in about 1/3. And so you will only be responsible for 1/3 of your tuition costs. And we find that students have incredible success moving from both the academic environmental policy plus the intensive sort of work experience of a community fellowship into employment after school. We're going to talk about what all of our students are doing after school, but this gives you that much more sort of hands-on in the office workplace experience, in addition to supporting some more of your tuition. But it is a big responsibility for students who do it. Happy to answer more questions about the community fellowship program too. So about those jobs after the program, our students, as they come in with a range of academic backgrounds, as they pursue a range of areas of focus while they're at our program, they go off to do a number of different things once they graduate. And you can see here just some of the logos of some of the places that our graduates are now or have been working in. These range from nonprofit organizations. They've been, employed by federal, state, and local government agencies. They're in private companies, national, international. The UN environmental program is there. We've had several students go off and work directly for the UN or some of the NGOs that are affiliated with it. Some of these logos are state level environmental protection agencies. Lanta up there is our transportation agency. Again, thinking a lot about running a more sustainable fleet of buses, what that looks like, and what role a transportation authority plays in improving environmental sustainability of a region. Got the National Parks Conservation Association, National Resources Defense Council, some nationally known organizations that are active in environmental conservation and environmental policy work. The Nurture Nature Center is a local environmental advocacy / museum / environmental education operation that a number of our community fellows have been placed with, and also environmental policy graduates have gone on to work at. We've also had students go from our program into law school or continue their graduate work in PhD programs, doing a number of really interesting studies, again, in a range of focus areas because our program is interdisciplinary and so are our students. So I hope that at least gave you a brief overview of what environmental policy is all about. That is me, and please do not hesitate to reach out with any questions. My email address is up there. That website, which will be sure to make easily accessible from the link to this video, is our main page for our Environmental Policy Masters program, which is part of Lehigh's website. Please do not hesitate to reach out. Like I said, we are more than happy to answer any of your questions and would love to see you at Lehigh in the Environmental Policy Masters program. So thanks so much for listening, and I hope I get to talk to you soon.